In this Ayurveda video today, we're going to be talking about ghee. Many of you may have heard about it already, and that's great. And if you haven't, I'm so glad that you're listening to this today. Ghee is clarified butter. We use organic, unsalted, cultured butter to make ghee. Ghee is the premier, superior cooking oil that's used in Ayurveda. You can use it in your cooking, you can use it as a spread instead of things like butter. And why ghee is unique is that it's easier to digest. All oils are heavy and butter is heavy, but ghee, once you clarify that butter, you cook it to a certain point and it's been cultured already as well in the butter form, then it becomes very light on the digestion. It actually helps to stimulate your agni, or your digestive fire and capacity. It's incredibly good for the skin, and ghee is not clogging or congestive like other oils. So cultured ghee won't irritate cholesterol problems. In fact, it'll, over time with a balanced diet, help to regulate the digestion so that the agni can be strong enough to deal with things like that. I recommend that most of my clients and students use ghee, especially if you have any kind of digestive issues going on and any kind of skin issues, mental issues, mind issues, always affect the gut as well. Ghee is the best oil. So I'm going to show you today how to make it at home. You can buy it at the stores. It can be quite pricey. You can also make it at home. You just have to find organic, unsalted, cultured butter. And here we go. We're going to cook the ghee at a low temperature. I'm going to turn this on to medium until the butter gets melted. I would recommend, if it's new for you, to do 1 pound at a time. If the ghee gets cooked too long, then it will burn. At that point, it's no longer going to be therapeutic or medicinal or digestible, easily digestible. It becomes heavy and not helpful in that case. I'm going to do 2, but I recommend, again, if it's your first few times. I think it was my 3rd or 4th time that I burned my first and only batch. Usually that only happens once. But then thereafter, once you're used to it, then you can make bigger quantities, like 2 pounds, 5 pounds, even 10 pounds, and you can store it in jars, dry, clean jars, and then you'll have it on hand for when you need it. Everything that you use to make the ghee should be clean and dry. It's on medium right now. I'm going to keep an eye on it until it melts, and then we're going to let it cook at a low temperature. It's going to make some noise. I'll show you that when it gets there. And when the noise starts to become quiet and the pops are very few and far in between, that's how you'll know that the ghee is ready. We'll go ahead and let it start to melt. It's going to get a little bit white, a little bit frothy in that process. The butter has now melted, and you can see there's a layer of froth on the top. It may or may not be there in your case. Depends on what the cows ate, the time of year. This is on low, and that's about the tempo you want it to be boiling at. You don't want it to be too light of a simmer so that it doesn't actually cook out the milk solids. And you also don't want it to be a rolling boil. It should just be a really gentle boil. And then you let it go. The foam may rise and it may fall again. And you just keep an eye on it, be in the area, especially in the beginning, and just make sure that it's still at that tempo. As the ghee cooks, I may have to turn it up a little bit. But you'll know by the way that it's boiling in there, how you hear it rolling, how that boil is very gently processing the butter. You can see as the cooking process is starting to break up some of the fatty parts of the butter that it's thinning out, and you can hear it a little bit more as well. And it's still going at that medium heat, low to medium. It's at about a 2 right now. And again, you may need to increase or decrease depending on what's happening. Time of year makes a difference too. The time of year you're cooking it. Also the time of year the milk was taken from the cows, which was then used to make the butter. It all impacts. But generally you should, based on your butter supply, have a pretty consistent experience with the ghee. You can see as it continues, it's going at a moderate light boil. So it's a gentle boil. It's not a simmer. That wouldn't be enough. And it's not an aggressive boil either. The process here, there was a thick white coating initially, the froth, the foam. And then it had largely gone away, and it was just the light yellow liquid that was becoming more clear over time. Now it has come back, but it's a little bit brownish around the sides. But you can see that it's still bubbling, and you can still hear it. So still making those little bit of crackling and bubbling noises. This is where you really want to start to monitor it so that it doesn't burn, because it can tip over the edge pretty quickly. And keep it at a heat level, so I have it on 2 right now. You can still hear those cracks. You can see it moving here, those little crackles, and then eventually they're going to slowly slow down, and then they're going to become very few and far in between. That's the point when it will be finished. And again, how much it froths and what color the froth is and whether it goes and comes back or stays the whole time, that will just depend on your ghee. So just be present with it, listen to it, watch it. And if you're not sure what's happening beneath the foam layer, a clean utensil without irritating it, agitating and interfering too much, you just move it out of the way a little bit. You can see there that it's still yellow and clear. If it starts to turn dark brown, especially black, then you know it's gone too far. Now the movement has gotten quite small and the pops and the cracks are lesser. The foam is still covering it in this case. So we'll just look around and you can see that instead of that really bright clear yellow, it's getting a little amber, and that's fine. And this is where we'll want to slow it down. I'm just going to put it down to low. We'll let those pops finish up, because while there's still movement happening, the sound has become very infrequent. So I'm going to let it go for another minute or 2. Listening to those pops getting a little bit less in terms of their sound. The movement will become a little less too. And then I'm going to turn it off. If you feel like you've left it a little bit close to its end point and it needs to be removed from the heat or it will burn, then by all means you can remove it from the heat. Otherwise, if you are looking at it and you say, okay, there's hardly any of those pops, the movement has become much less. You can smell that almost caramelly smell. Some of the sediment has started to brown. Those are all part of the indicators of how it's doing. Then you can always turn it off. Like I could turn it off right now. And then the heat from the pot and the burner will finish the process here. A clean dry spoon and just check. You can see in the spoon, even though it looks dark in the pot, it's still that golden yellow. And that is how you make ghee. Once the ghee has cooled down a little bit, pour the ghee into glass jars and you'll store it there. I reuse mine, just make sure they're cleaned out really well, there's no oily residue left over from before, and that they're dry when you are transferring the ghee. These little strainers are very helpful and very convenient, and you can just hold it above. You can put a layer of cheesecloth on, or you can also just pour slow enough that the sediment mostly settles and then collects here. If you have sediment that's getting through, then you'll know that your strainer isn't fine enough to use on its own, and a layer of organic, unbleached cheesecloth will help. It's also a good idea to set your jars into a bowl. Hold over the strainer, pour the ghee, and that way, if the ghee was too hot still and the jar burst, then it would collect into the bowl. Once you get the hang of it and you know what temperature that your ghee can get down to where it's still warm, so it's easy to pour, but it's not hot and at risk of bursting any glass, then you'll be set and you won't need the extra bowl. You can see some sediment collected in the strainer. There's a little bit of froth on the top because I didn't let it cool as long as I normally would, but I'm going to go ahead and fill the jars. I'll just show you. So inside you can see that the sediment had browned and cooked onto the bottom, and that will scrape off really easy with a pot scraper, and that can just go in the compost. Now make sure to cover your ghee right away, although my jars are a little warm, so I'm not going to screw them on so tight yet. And then you'll store them in the cupboard. No need to store them in the refrigerator. That is how to make ghee. It's pretty simple. It could take maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes if you're doing only 1 pound. It can take longer if you're doing more. Superior to other oils in terms of the impact on the joints, the lubrication on the body, the health of the eyes. It has an affinity for eye health, keeping the gut balanced and the digestive functioning strong. So again, different than other oils. Other oils will dampen your digestion. They're heavy. They are more stagnating and clogging. Ghee in moderate amounts will actually improve the digestive function, the metabolic fires. Lastly, the energy of ghee also is of importance. The ghee should be made in a clean space, made in a clean environment, as it does absorb the energy of surroundings. So it's good not to leave your ghee uncovered when you're not using it and when you're cooking it, to make sure that your space is clean and that you have a positive mindset and a contented heart when you're making it. If you could make the ghee during the waxing phase of the moon, when the moon is growing in size toward the full, that also increases the positive benefits and the healing qualities. Enjoy your ghee and subscribe to the channel for more Ayurveda and Yoga tidbits.